afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. I see a lot of returning faces. And this is our second or third meeting now. We've met twice already this year, so we're happy to see you return again for the auxiliary staff advisory meeting. And we hope that you have gained some insightful information. Those of you who have partaken in meetings previously, and we are sure that you will gain more information as we all work in collaboration together to support our commitment to high performance. We ask that you hold all of your questions towards the end. And of course, this meeting is recorded. Most often I don't make this announcement, but if you have your cell phones turned in a high volume, please turn them low or silence them at this time. Thank you so much. And we'll get started and bring to the podium our leader, Dr. Morcease J. Beasley, our Superintendent of Schools. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and hopefully you had a good day today and moving quickly towards the winter holidays, which I'm sure all of us are looking forward to. We have a pretty quick agenda for you today, so I just wanted to go ahead and get started. You should have received a few handouts. The first one being the district overview. So if you would take a second to look at that. This is our second auxiliary meeting. And so we wanted to just basically make sure that we went over a few things that have occurred since the last time we met. And of course, always providing you an opportunity to share your thoughts, your feedback, ask any questions that you may have. And so I won't go over that entire document in detail, but very quickly you should know, of course, we're continuing our move forward in implementing high expectations for all of our students. And we believe that our work is the right work. We believe that our efforts are paying off, and as we build momentum, we expect to see more improvements in our school system. Our grad rate is finally, a district-wide grad rate is above 70% for the first time in the history of the district. Out of the 11 comprehensive high schools, 7 of them are above 80%. And so we have 4 who are in the 70s. And those schools, at the rate that they improved from the last grad rate release, we anticipate that they will be in the 80s within a year or so. And so we're very pleased that we're making progress in that area. Our goal is to get to 90% within the next 4 to 5 years, all high schools at 90%. Our alternative high school, it was a program prior years, it's now in high school. It had a grad rate of about 35%, and we expect it to be in that area. But we're pleased that when we compare it to all the other alternative schools in the metro area, it had the highest grad rate. And you should know the alternative school is it's a non-traditional option for students who have clearly missed the opportunity to graduate on time for whatever reason. And many times they're inclined to drop out of high school, but we believe that their lives would be better if they can at least earn a high school diploma. And so the alternative high school is that non-traditional option. It is also what we would call an online campus or blended learning campus as well. And so we're very pleased with the work that they're doing there, and we'll continue to provide support. As you well know, the state has already released a few lists. I believe all the lists, and one list will be released, I believe, on Friday, December 3rd, which is Monday. And so the comprehensive school support list was released. We had one school on the list, that was the Perry Academy Alternative High School. We had no schools on the list in the lowest 5% in the state, and Perry only made the list because if a high school has a grad rate below 68%, I believe it is, they land on the list. We expected them to land on the list even though they're an alternative school. The governor released his list of schools, all the schools eligible for turnaround status, and we had no schools on the list there. We're very pleased that Martin Luther King Junior Elementary School was exited from that list, and at the rate we're going, we don't anticipate being a part of that conversation in Clayton anymore. The state released or will be releasing a targeted school improvement list, and That will be Monday, and you should know, you just get a little preview. We have no schools on that list, and that list will be released on Monday. You should know that we're moving in the right direction. We're working on the reading, the math, the science, and social studies, developing the 4 C's. And as we share with the principals, our goal is to just stay focused, to do very few things, and do those very few things very well. Teaching and learning being one of them. You've got to do that very well. And so our students are working on their reading and math scores. Not only are the teachers teaching the standards, but the students are working outside of the classroom on their reading and math scores. At the elementary level, they're working on iReady, beyond the classroom, and at the high school level, they're using Achieve 3000. So we're very pleased that our students are setting and have set their Lex Out targets, and they understand that they have a role to play. You know, sort of like your muscle. If you want your muscle to get strengthened, once you understand how to strengthen your muscle, it's your responsibility to do what? Strengthen your muscle. And so our students, clearly, the ones that we're teaching to read at the lower grade levels, we've got to continue to teach them to read, and so we have a very concerted effort going on to ensure that our teachers have the capacity to teach our students to read. But once they learn how to read, then we've got to transition to reading to learn. And that clearly requires the teacher to do something on their part, but it also requires students to do something on their part. The part of students would be, when you know how to read, you've got to do what? To read better, you've got to continue to do what? You've got to continue to read. And so across the district, we're encouraging students to use the tools that we provide to read beyond what the teacher is doing in the classroom. And we believe that our efforts are paying off, and it's just a matter of time before we see even more significant increases in our outcomes. You should know we're getting ready to share high expectations for all students. And just so you'll know, you'll be hearing about algebra for all 8th grade students within a year or so, starting with our rising 6th graders next year. And you'll be hearing about advanced placement expectations for all incoming high school students. And so we're removing all the courses that we believe have low expectations out of our schedule, out of the master schedule as options, and we expect all students, realizing that many will need additional support, which is fine, but we expect all students to matriculate and to take advantage of rigorous course options, because all of them need to be prepared for post-secondary opportunities, and they need to find themselves clearly offered opportunities and not in a situation where their opportunities are diminished because, for whatever reason, they didn't take advantage of those opportunities. We are working clearly to ensure that we support teachers, we provide training. That's really our work right now, is to provide training, ensure that we have collaborative planning occurring. We're using the data to inform instruction, and we're using the data to support students so our students can improve their outcomes. I won't go any further on that document that you have there. Feel free to share that information, discuss it. If you have questions, feel free to let us know if you have questions. The next area is SPLOS. You should know the current SPLOS we're in, we call it SPLOS 5. It ends December of next year, December of 2019. So on March 19th, you should write this date down, March 19th, all of Clayton County will have the opportunity. All of those who are registered to vote will have the opportunity to vote on the continuation of SPLOS called SPLOS 6. It will, again, the vote will be March 19th. It includes some projects, major projects. And the community, through its vote, will decide if it wants these major projects to occur. A brand new high school for Morrow High School, a STEM high school, a brand new middle school for Forest Park Middle School, a new elementary school in the Lovejoy area, and a new college and career academy that will be centrally located and that will have very unique programs in the process of determining those programs that will feed, support students at all of the high schools in the district. Clearly, we want to continue to renew our bus fleet because buses get aged every year. We want to continue with our one-to-one initiative, extending learning beyond the classroom, where we're providing all students in grades 3 through 12 a Chromebook that they can use as an instructional tool. And of course, we want to ensure that we continue with our renovations, our HVAC upgrades, ensuring that the schools that are clearly older have older systems and they're not reliable. We're basically upgrading those systems. And so, as you can see there, we're expecting the referendum will allow us to raise a maximum of $280 million. And if the referendum passes on March 19th, it will be for the period of January 2020 through December of 2024. And again, our community has to decide. While we as employees cannot tell people how to vote, we can really tell them what will not occur if the referendum fails. And so this community has to decide what it wants for its children. At this time, what I'd like to do is share some areas of customer service that we're continuing to emphasize, and I would hope that you're seeing this as you interact with parents, as you interact with teachers, as you interact with administrators. You should see a concerted effort on the part of all to actually improve customer service.
Thank you, Dr. Beasley, and good afternoon again. So last year, when the superintendent established the advisory groups, as you know, the auxiliary staff advisory team was charged with the responsibility of creating the customer service tone or the processes, protocols for the school district. And many of you who are returning should have received that information, and we heard you loud and clear. We spent some exhaustive time going over what you deem appropriate customer service should look like. And so we heard you loud and clear, and based on your feedback about good customer service standards, we created the 4 elements of exceptional customer service. We obviously know it's to communicate effectively, to collaborate efficiently, to collect feedback from all stakeholders, and to consider next steps based on information shared by all of our colleagues and partners in education. So as a result of that, a customer service or climate survey was administered in May 2017 to all internal and external stakeholders. We had about 1,287 employees to conduct the survey. We had about 604 parents, about 226 students, and most of the top 6 areas of concern consisted of the following: overall communication with the district amongst all stakeholders. They felt like we should do a better job in that area. Participating in making sure that we address disruptive student behavior in schools. Cleanliness of the school environment. Providing additional resources for teachers and support staff, holding individuals accountable, and some deemed that there was a lack of cohesiveness between school staff and district school administrators. Why am I sharing this with you today? Because we all need to work in collaboration together to make sure that the next survey that we administer in May 2019, the results are more favorable for us. I think that we've made some great gains. As you well know, our superintendent has actually worked with the Equity and Compliance Division. I wanted to make sure I got the correct name of the division, to make sure that we have an organizational effectiveness survey that was administered right before the Thanksgiving holiday. And I think that team is actually in the process of preparing those survey results to share with the superintendent. And it's another climate, I'd like to say, customer service survey as well, just ranking all of our departments to see how we're doing and what can we do better to be of service to not only our internal stakeholders, but certainly our partners in education. We are relying on you. You are our focus group. We deem it important enough to share information with you so you can help us. Share to your peers. How can we perfect our work? How can we make it better? How can we transition to be the greatest and the best performing school district in the nation, not only in the state? We obviously know that many are starting to emulate our services across the county, and many are starting to join us in in terms of working with our staff. So we know that we're doing a great job. We know that there's much, much more work to be done. And so we're heavily relying on you, this particular core of team. And there's actually about 300 people that initially signed up to be a part of the auxiliary staff, meaning we've had a lot more participation in the past. But we will be sending emails to you and sharing information as we start to develop a new survey as we end the school year. In addition to creating or developing a customer service standards pamphlet, we would like to have that established in March 2019. We would like to also work with you. We mentioned once before creating a customer service protocol for the entire school district. It starts here. How should it look? We should be the ambassadors. We should be the role models, the examples that we deem for others to follow. And so my department and my division will be working with you, emailing you, trying to get information so we can share it with the superintendent to later in return share it with our stakeholders so we can get their buy-in and support and create a guideline, a policy and protocols and procedures to help them understand what great customer service should consist of. So I thank you for your time. If you do have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain them after Dr. Beasley continues with his presentation.
Thank you, Jada. I think it's important to just really share that the communication is very, very important in every role, whether it be the superintendent, the cabinet, the deputies, the chiefs, the directors, the coordinators, the principals, the teachers, secretaries, counselors. We have to communicate. We cannot do it in silos, and we've got to be around the table. So that's why, as Jada mentioned, we're collecting data to see what's the perception out there relative to customer service. It's amazing. I don't get many of these, but I still do get a few emails wherein, and they come directly to me, wherein people will complain they walked into school and the front office was rude and this occurred. And see, when those come to me, whatever it was, it ticked somebody off enough to locate how to send the superintendent an email about their experience. And so we direct those directly to school leadership. And it is a clear expectation that, first of all, figure out what you need to do to treat people the way you want to be treated. I don't know of anybody in this room who walks into an environment, a clothing store, anywhere, and you would not necessarily feel disrespected if the person didn't acknowledge you in an appropriate way. And I have to always remind us, the 55,000 children here, if they didn't come, there will be no need for any of us to have a job in Clayton County. And so we're one of those strange relationships where the people we serve happen to also be our bosses. That's what, because we serve this community. There's no reason for a school system to exist if not to serve and provide an education for the people that live in the community. And so I often say very quickly, there are some things that may take a whole lot of problem solving to fix, a whole lot of strategies and deep thought. Being rude is not one of them. All of us can be nice, can't we? All of us can be responsive. And so those are things that we just want to see and we expect, and we are seeing those things corrected immediately. We'll continue to collect feedback, and we'll use the feedback, whether it's baseline data or we're building from baseline data, to monitor and to ensure that our strategies are improving in this area. Just like we expect to see reading and math scores improve, we expect customer service to also improve, because it's called a culture of high performance. And the culture speaks to the norms, not necessarily the things you always talk about, but the unspoken rules. What are the expectations that we have first of ourselves as employees, as professionals, and then what are the expectations we have of one another? What are the expectations that our community should have of us? And so let's just remember that if in this room and those who have participated will understand and go out and be the ambassadors. We have to ensure. Why is that important? That we have the timely customer service, we speak well, and even in tough situations where you don't feel like necessarily being polite, you find a way, you go deep down in you, you find a way to be polite. Why is that important? Let me tell you why it's important, because as we develop the fiscal year 20 budget, or the fiscal year 21, or the fiscal year 22, I always hear, and I've always heard people talk about their pay. And I always tell people, if you want a community like Clayton's, 280,000 people, to support pay increases when they're recommended by the superintendent, I grant you, if we have a reputation that we're improving outcomes, that we're providing excellent customer service, that we're responsive, we're considerate, we're respectful, you won't get any pushback from the community. I have seen communities push back on pay increases for all groups. You know why? Because they thought that they were not professional, or they thought that there was too much disrespect, or the children were being disrespected, or the parents had too many negative experiences as they walked into schools. So I often tell people, it all matters. It all matters. It all matters. And now your board, they appoint the superintendent, but your board, who has to approve the budget, they are elected. So what does that mean? They respond to their constituents. And so no matter what recommendation I provide to them or I offer to them, that board will listen to its what? Constituents, because normally people who run for an office want to get what? Re-elected. And so all I'm saying is this: it all matters, and what we've got to do as employees is make it easy for the board, once a recommendation comes to improve incomes or salaries or pay scales, we got to make it easier for the board. And that is made easier only when the community supports the recommendations. And so it all matters. It all matters. So that being stated, the budget for fiscal year 20 is being developed. We are working to ensure, as we're monitoring, to strengthen our fiscal position. And we're doing this clearly for several reasons. We have to always increase the amount of money that we have in our savings account, because it needs to be at a certain amount, and it's not at that amount as of yet. But we're confident that we'll be able to get it there within a year or so. Maybe 2, maybe 3, but we'll get it there. But as we strengthen the money in the bank, as we strengthen ourselves fiscally, then we're positioned to engage in what we call the implementation of a compensation study. And so right now we've got our business services department that will be working with HR, will be working to do a compensation study starting with the lowest salaried individuals. And as we hopefully determine where those salaries should be, we'll be able to, based upon the money in the bank, we'll be able to implement a solution to correct those salaries, and then we'll move to the next group of salaries. But we'll start with the lowest salaries in the district, being custodians, the bus drivers, the school nutrition workers. It could be nurses, I don't know, but it could be. But we will clearly, because we can't do all of those at one time, we will phase in, as we do those compensation studies, we'll phase in those changes over time as the funds are appropriate. So what's our work as a school system? We've got to continue to keep our revenues increasing, and we've got to keep our expenditures where? Decreasing, or at least not rising. Does that make sense? So that's everybody's work, because everybody wants a pay increase. So everybody's got to take some responsibility for ensuring that we increase revenues and we decrease or keep at a minimum our expenditures, so we can increase the funds that are in our reserve, which then gives us the funds we need to implement a compensation study. And so that's what we're working towards. We're confident we'll be able to do it. And again, it will be done in phases. So I'll pause here to see what's on your mind, to answer any questions. We have the team members here. Answer any questions that you may have. If you have any feedback for us, feel free to share. We want to hear. and we want to continuously improve. We use your feedback, your questions, your comments to inform our conversations, to inform our work, and to inform our strategies that we're implementing to move this district in the right direction. So thank you for being here. Thank you for making it a priority to be here today. We know you could have just gotten in your car and told the principal you were coming and went straight home. No one would have ever known. But thank you for being here on today.
Any questions, just raise your hand and I will walk us forward.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Beasley, you had mentioned that you were working with HR to evaluate the pay increases, starting with the lowest paid individuals. So what are you using to evaluate how much more they should get? Because as with most jobs, anywhere you go, it depends on your level of experience or how long you've been at an organization or your evaluation. So what are we using, or what are you all going to use to determine how much of an increase somebody should get? And I mean, is it like a cost of living thing or whatnot? Just because with non-certified staff members, it's custodians. I mean, I don't want to disrespect anybody, but you don't need a master's degree to be a custodian. But with teachers, when they get master's degrees or when they get advanced degrees, they may not get a lot more, but they do get some more to their pay. So I'm just wondering what exactly is being used to provide those step increases to those
What I'll pitch it to Dr. Wilson, who has experience with compensation studies, and share the considerations that come into play when compensation studies are done, okay?
Thank you. Good afternoon. There will be several factors that will be considered. There will be benchmark studies that are done with other school districts that have comparable positions to those that are in Clayton. As a part of that, they will take a look at the duties and responsibilities that are associated with each position that we are asking them to review. So they'll get baseline data in terms of what the duties and responsibilities are and what the qualifications should be for that position. Based on that, they'll do a market analysis for a metro area school district to see where we benchmark. And based on that, they'll make recommendations to the school system in terms of how should we proceed, whether or not our employees are paid fairly, they're below market, above market, and then they'll give us recommendations in terms of how to move forward. And in reference to the portion that you mentioned about certain positions getting steps or more money for degrees they may earn, that really deals with the State Department of Education. Based on the state salary schedule, we are mandated to provide salary increases for certificated employees because the state provides monies for those certificate increases. Whereas with classified employees, there is no funding to do that. So from the state, for certified employees, they provide the funding. For classified employees, they don't. So at some point, if those recommendations are going to be recommended to the board, then monies would have to be available to do that because it would solely be on the school system to do it, and there's not any funding from the state.
It's not an exact science. Notice he said we look at market. So we look at the metro area. As you well know, the metro area in Atlanta could pay differently from the metro area in Washington, D.C. And so there are regional considerations as well. But our goal is to be competitive because we realize that in the metro area that you have many options. And so we are trying to be competitive. We use a study, the MRESA study. We use the MRESA study, which looks at, I'm going to say, pay from all around the state. And right now, I want to say we're number 3 with certain positions, teaching positions. But our goal is to get as close to 1, if not 1, as possible. And so compensation studies should be done every few years. I would say probably 5 to 7 years, and it's well overdue. Well, I'm not one for long meetings if we don't have to have them. And so you all know how to reach us if you have questions, if you have comments. We'll be prepared to share more data relative to the recent surveys that we've collected recently that we're analyzing. We'll be able to really talk about our strategies that we'll be employing, long-term strategies to really ramp up our support, and we'll continue to provide updates for the areas that matter most to you. If you have areas that you would like to hear more about, just shoot Jada or one of her team members an email, and we'll add it to the agenda.
Great afternoon.
Good afternoon.
For clarity purposes, in response to the answer for how we're going to retain teachers with more competitive pay, you mentioned that teachers, anytime they receive an upgrade in their certificate, anybody that's certified will receive an increase in pay. How does that apply to your administrators within the district? Because from my understanding, for administrators, even though it's a requirement that we're advancing ourselves with more education, et cetera, that when administrators receive an advanced degree, we do not receive an increase in pay.
Correct. Thank you for that question. You may recall several years ago, the State Department of Education changed the rules when it comes to leadership certifications. What was happening across the state was that, I'm not saying I disagree with it or agree with it, but there were a number of employees, teachers in classrooms who had leadership certificates. They were not in a leadership role or position, and they were being paid on those certificates. So the PSC and the State Board of Education changed that rule to state that you must be in a leadership position in order to be paid for your leadership certification. So if you were a classroom teacher and you, from that point forward, were to obtain a leadership certificate and you're still in the classroom, you would not be paid for that leadership certificate. If you're in the classroom and you were to get a master's, specialist, or doctorate in your field of certification, then you would be paid for it.
And I understand that part. I guess, to clarify, thank you. I understand that part, what you just mentioned. That was to alleviate people wanting to get the advanced degrees and they were not working in the field in which they were receiving the degree. What happens when there's an administrator specifically that receives an advanced degree that's aligned to the field of work in which they do? In our district currently, administrators are not compensated for those degrees we receive. Is that something that's going to be placed on the table? Because as part of how we're evaluating what's expected of us as leaders, I'm sure Dr. Beasley and the staff wants us to pursue advanced areas of education and other outside things that are going to advance us in our place of employment. So what is going to be done, or how will that be addressed?
Correct. Thank you for the clarity. That will be a part of the compensation study, and it really boils down to dollars and cents. Whether or not the district can afford to pay individuals where that advanced degree is not required, whether or not the district can afford to do it. With teachers, the state says, yes, do it, we'll give you the money. For those positions where it's not required, it's up to the local school district and whether or not they can afford to do it.
Thank you.
And to be honest, I think we should also consider some other models out there where people are appropriately, especially at the administrative level, if those advanced degrees exist, they have, depending on the outcomes. We're not just going to just, like we do teachers, just automatically move someone up. But the board decides that's the direction they want to go in. We'll present to the board several options, I'm sure, what we believe are the best options. So I appreciate you for asking the question. But as Dr. Wilson said, funding clearly would be important for whatever option we present to the board.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
In reference to the compensation study, when was the last compensation study, and will there be decreases?
Well, no, I'm not. I ain't no decrease in superintendent, so that ain't gonna happen. The only way I would even consider a decrease is if it is to save us from losing our jobs. You know what I mean? But we're not in that position where we have to do that. When was the last compensation study? I don't know. Do we know? 07, so it's been 11 years ago. And so that data is clearly not useful. Okay. All right, any other questions?
Good afternoon, Dr.
Good afternoon.
The question is more of an instructional question. You stated earlier that sixth grade students will be taking accelerated math. I just want to know what plan do you have in place for the teachers and the students for that course, because being in the middle school, I know that a lot of the students come to middle school with foundational gaps. So I just kind of want to know what plan do you have in place for the teachers for middle school?
We're currently looking at, for the teachers, first of all, we're looking at the standards and figuring out which ones we actually need to teach. And so some standards will be emphasized and some will not necessarily be emphasized. So that will help with the time. Relative to teaching, of course, we'll continue to provide content training and support. And for students, we're looking at a series of options or a set of options to provide them the support that they need. One thing we've noticed, we've got a few schools right now, we'll use Elite Scholars. A lot of the kids that get into Elite Scholars, they're not ready for Accelerate, but they require Accelerated. They have a 93% passing rate. So we know that if the expectations are there and the support is there, the instruction is where it ought to be, that those students will do well. So what we're committed to is removing the gaps where we have high expectations for some students, depending on what school they attend, and lower expectations for others. We want high expectations for all students. We know that they'll do well. Will they all be proficient the first year? No, but this is our plan. So that 8th grade year will be algebra with no high school credit, just algebra. If they make a certain score on the end of course test, they'll go into geometry. If they look like they need another boost of algebra, they'll go into accelerated algebra. And so 2 years of algebra will just position them to be even that much better. And so we do have a plan that we believe will fundamentally strengthen all of our students long term, and then provide all of them the option of achieving, if they'd like to, calculus before they leave high school. So you'll hear more about the training for teachers and the support of students. The team, we were meeting about working on that today. We've been meeting the last few weeks, so you'll hear more about it as we prepare to roll it out in January. Okay.
Hi. Mine piggybacks on her question. I guess my question deals more with the preparation at the elementary level, because that's where we're having a lot of the struggles in my middle school with the 6th graders. We're getting kids from like 4 or 5 different elementary schools, and their skills vary by extreme degrees in some instances. So how do we prepare those 5th graders coming into 6th grade to take that accelerated 6th grade class?
That's part of the conversation as well. As a matter of fact, we're looking at some grade levels at the elementary level and some content areas where we believe we need to strengthen and ramp it up a little bit. And so clearly it's a vertically aligned plan. It's long term, but we do know we've got to strengthen it. And what we're really encouraging is, and sometimes it takes time to do this, we're really encouraging our teachers to take advantage of the math endorsement that's afforded to elementary teachers. But we do know that it takes time. But we do also know that many are not necessarily interested in pursuing a math endorsement at the K-5 level. And so we'll continue to train, we're ramping up, but we're also trying to see which standards we really need to focus in on in order to strengthen them in that middle school experience as we prepare them for a better experience at the high school level. So just a combination, no one bullet solution, silver bullet, just a combination of things that we believe, we know the data would suggest works for us, and we're just going to continue to do more of that, more strategically. Who are the teachers that need support based upon the data? What type of support are we providing those teachers? And then what grades, what does a 5th grade experience actually look like? What does that 4th grade experience actually look like? And what does that 3rd grade experience actually look like? Clearly, we're working on the K2 experience as well. Our goal there is for students to actually read on or above grade level. And so just a combination of things, but no one simple bullet, just a combination again of some strategies that we believe will help us achieve those desired outcomes. Any other questions? Well, I would just say to all of you, I hope you have a wonderful winter holiday. Whatever you celebrate, whether it be Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, or nothing, enjoy it all. It's all good because you get a day off regardless of what you celebrate, right? And appreciate the time off. Thank you all. We appreciate all that you all are doing. Thank you for working hard for our county, our students, and we look forward to seeing you all the next time. Take care.